Jake Roos just went through a portal in his microwave. He's back. Welcome to the Georgia Show. We're a couple weeks away from the Dogs taking on the Nighthawks. That's right. The Nighthawks. Is that who
I had no idea.
I wrote something on the board the other day, and I was like, whoever UT Martin is, I don't know.
You could have called them the Fighting Otters, and I would have had no idea.
For months, to tell you what I know about this game, for months, I've been telling somebody it was a directional school. I thought it was an ETSU or something like that. And then I was like, I looked it up, I was like, I'll be damned, it's UT Martin. I did not know that.
Yes, Steve Martin founded this school, apparently.
Their head coach is Ty Simpson, potential Alabama starter, his father.
Oh. That's interesting. Caleb Downs' dad, I believe, is the coach at ETSU, if I'm not mistaken.
Palmer be knowing stuff sometimes.
Wow.
Hey, that's my home state, boys.
He was his third base. He was Palmer's third base coach in Little League or something like that.
No, that's Eric Zaire.
Yeah, it was Zaire.
Every time Eric Zaire's name comes up on any show, Palmer's always in the text or in the comments. Palmer Tom's Little League coach, Eric Zaire.
That was my coach.
He was more my sports psychologist. Didn't take too well to striking out, and he helped me calm down, not throw to that.
One Georgia quarterback who's a lot more calm this week, knowing he's got the job. Carson Beck, Kirby Smart nonchalantly announced that he is QB1, and the experience, the amount of time he's been in Athens was the defining factor over Brock Vandagriff and Gunnar Stockton.
Too bad Matthew C. has dropped us like a bad habit, or he would be in the comments right now talking about how Carson Beck looks like Napoleon Dynamite. Listen.
Fair take.
We saw it coming. We all saw it coming. Carson Beck and his light bulb shaped noggin. He won the starting job. And listen, I remember all the way back to Jim Chaney knowing exactly how many snaps Jake Fromm had taken coming into the 2018 season, to know that Jim Chaney, what I knew of him, he didn't look that up. That was a Kirby Smart stat. That was a Kirby Smart metric. He had mentioned it in a staff meeting or something. I felt it in my bones. And I just knew that Carson, having taken the amount of snaps that he had taken, was probably going to win this starting job. Not only that, guys, he won it. I mean, he really did. I mean, that G-Day performance was really good. It wasn't like Brock Vandagriff or Gunnar Stockton gave him a ton of competition that day. But, Carson Beck looked really good that day. He was efficient. I think he was 3 for 3 in the first half with touchdown drives against a dinged up but still really good Georgia defense. Got off to a slow start when they were in just kind of spider pads and helmets here for preseason practice. But once they put the pads on, man, he started stacking good practice on top of good practice. And here we are. Carson Beck's the starter, surprising absolutely no one. And, we've written a lot about it. We've written the timeline. We've written, I wrote a column that, kind of came to me whenever we were discussing some stuff on the message board. And maybe we'll get to it later, but the gist of it was Stetson Bennett didn't get a lot of your grace and your patience, Georgia fans. Maybe Carson Beck will.
Jake, you say it didn't surprise anyone. Did it surprise you that Kirby came out and announced it? Because I think that did surprise a lot of people on the message boards, at least.
Yeah, I kind of thought that he would just, in a way, leave it out there in the ether, just kind of, all right, yeah, this is everybody knows, but I'm not going to say it.
I will say, though, you probably didn't anticipate. I don't think I anticipated him going into the season with an or on the depth chart when it was released.
Not necessary. You're right. Yeah, I mean, when we did that because we always do a pregame depth chart, like when we see that flip card, we do a pregame. I didn't expect an or there. Yeah. So maybe then at the latest, I don't know. You don't really know. He's handled it so many different ways. I mean, he named Jacob Eason the starter, but then I don't think he ever really named Jake Fromm the starter over Justin Fields. But then he named JT Daniels the starter. He never named Juan Mathis the starter. So, I mean, it's just there's so many different ways he's handled it. And, I don't know, man. He's kind of earned the benefit of the doubt at this point, but it doesn't blow me away, like shock me that he announced it yesterday. But I didn't really expect it. I didn't expect the timing of it, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't expect it either, but when you see the impact it could have on the team, it removes all doubt, and they probably had a good sense of it, and maybe Carson Beck did too. But at least now, this week, they're going to start preparing for UT Martin. You know who your squad is. You know who the top dog is there in that position.
And I'll say this. I talk to a lot of player parents. I wouldn't say a lot. I mean, a lot's relative. I mean, several player parents. They'll tell you right now that Kirby Smart, if there's one truism from Kirby, it is that the team feels good about all three quarterbacks. It is, because I've heard parents be like, hey, man, listen, they'll rally behind Brock. Brock Vandegrift is a linebacker in a quarterback's body, or a linebacker mentality and with an arm. Gunnar Stockton is a guy that has the team's respect. They love the way he goes about his business. Kirby, that is an absolute truism from Kirby Smart, is that all the quarterbacks have his respect.
Yeah, but
the team's respect. Sorry,
but if you got three, you don't have one, right? I mean, that's the old adage, and so I feel like Georgia feels like they have one. Whereas, yeah, if you need to turn to another guy, that's fine. But is there one clear cut and head and shoulders above everybody? That certainly seems to be the case with this announcement, at least in my mind. And I'll say somebody on our board mentioned that I think it was Roddy and Dane were saying stuff about they were kind of surprised by this, that, people didn't know this about Carson coming in. And a few people said, I can't remember people saying that. I'll say this. I'm surprised a little bit by it. I don't know that I thought Carson was the guy when he was coming into Georgia. I really didn't, to be honest with you. He had the potential and, certainly had some things on his resume that would have pointed it that way. I saw him at the Elite 11 that year. Wasn't particularly blown away with that showing. Didn't feel like he was one of those guys that maybe, this was like coming right off of the Fromm or like right in the middle of Fromm. Fromm had such a magnetism about him that just drew people in, and he was able to lead that way. I didn't see that from Carson in those settings as well. But it looks like he's trusted the process, to steal a phrase, and stuck with it. And now it's paying off for him in a big way. And I'm quite excited to see what he can do because, like I said, when he came in, I don't know that I would have guessed that he would have been in this position one day. But now that he is, I think that it's very intriguing because there's two pretty talented guys behind him as well.
Well, how about the fact that he stuck around a couple years ago? You thought he might have that opportunity when JT Daniels was hurt off the Clemson game to play against UAB, and something happened, and that something was Stetson Bennett, and he never really looked back.
Who?
But Carson Beck had a shot there, and, I don't know what happened. Maybe y'all do. Maybe you can fill us in. But he didn't get the opportunity that day or that season or even the next season to be the guy, but he's still here.
I have heard all sorts of stories on that, by the way.
What a week that was. So, Roos, you may remember this. They had the COVID scare where Kirby kind of mentioned COVID and that they were at their highest number. And that was my first week on the job. Quarterback conversation. JT, is he playing? Is he not? Who's going to be the starter? Somebody ran a story that essentially said, Carson Beck expects to start, but
Chip
JT
Towers.
Daniels.
Oh yeah, I know who that story.
I wasn't going to say a name, but yeah, I mean, what a week that was.
Hey, I was listen, man. Come Thursday, I was in the Golden State, getting ready for a wedding, taking some time off during the season. Yeah. It was my buddy Nate Leckahall was getting married, and it was one of the greatest weekends of my entire life. It was incredible, great time. But I didn't have to deal with all that, thank goodness. But I will say this: I've heard so many different variations of the story. Carson struggled that week, but I don't know in hindsight that, struggle or not, he would have been the starting quarterback that day. Again, go back to that number of snaps and experience. Stetson had started several games there before. Did Stetson Bennett have a tattoo? Do we know about Stetson Bennett's tattoo game?
None visible.
None
I
visible.
would get.
Okay.
I would assume so. I cannot verify.
Yeah, man, Carson Beck here, man. Look at that. I mean, just tatted up big
Got
time.
the tiger on the arm there.
Giving the middle finger to the haters.
That doesn't even compare to the leg sleeve he's got.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
Different cat, man. Different cat.
He's got two kind of leg sleeves. He wears an actual sleeve on one.
That's looking like Iverson's. That's looking like Iverson's leg over there, man. I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's yeah, man. Good for him, dude. You know, express yourself in the ink, and maybe there's no magnets under the field. But ultimately, I don't know that he could have won that job or would have been the guy going into the UAB game. But I will say this: he did struggle that week, and Stetson Bennett went through 5 touchdowns. So Georgia definitely made the right decision that day and for the long haul. And man, I tell you what, it's just Georgia quarterbacks. Stetson kind of gave us all a break last year with the way he played and the way he got off to a start. He almost didn't give me a break because I've still got to eat my hat for him getting invited to New York for the Heisman. But Stetson kind of gave us a break. But man, it was such a weird few years there between Jake Fromm and Justin Fields and 2020, the cluster that was, and then the semi cluster that 2021 was, and Todd Monken, now beloved figure in Georgia circles, basically being called an idiot in December for standing behind Stetson. It was man, it was wild. But here we are again, and hopefully Carson Beck will also continue to kind of give us a break now.
Yeah, I mean, the dialogue around quarterbacks for Kirby Smart has really come full circle, and winning a couple national championships absolutely justified whatever kind of problems he had with Justin Fields and Jake Fromm, and that's a debate for another day and, quite frankly, another show, because I think we've all spent enough words and ink on it. But whatever happens now, it's not Stetson Bennett's job. You're charting a new course with Carson Beck, and we've also seen this quarterback position flip-flop a couple times in Kirby Smart's career, with Jacob Eason coming in for Grayson Lambert, and then Jake Fromm coming in for Jacob Eason. So, and then everything you just said about 2020.
I guess Stetson and JC Daniels too.
Get
healthy.
Just because you think you got a QB1 right now doesn't mean this roller coaster has reached its final destination.
I mean, what, 4 of the 7 years that Kirby's been at the helm, they haven't finished with the same quarterback that started game 1?
Yeah.
Because like you said, Lambert, Eason, Dwan Mathis in 2020, and then JT in 21.
True.
Well, Palmer, you were in the room. It's funny when you go back and listen to the press conference. As soon as Kirby makes the proclamation, everybody is typing away. It was one of those days. It's kind of you go into it thinking it's a ho-hum Saturday, but Kirby drops an Oppenheimer on us. So when you hear that Carson's going to be the guy, and you've seen him in his moments when he's been able to come in mop-up duty, who do you think is going to make the biggest impact behind Carson Beck? Do you think that Brock and Gunner will compete clearly for a clear-cut number 2 here, or do you think that's pretty much the pecking order is Brock and then Gunner?
I think that there will be a competition. Kirby talked about it, and we were discussing it after the fact. First of all, shout out to Jordan Hill. We were discussing beforehand the fact that hey, what kind of pre-writes do y'all have? And jokingly, somebody mentioned, do you have a Carson Beck announced as the starting quarterback pre-write? And he did have it, and Connor Riley and I kind of were like, man, we should probably get something ready just in case. So glad that we ended up having something ready there. But after the fact, we were discussing as well that every time Kirby talked about Carson, he very quickly also brought up Brock and Gunner. And I think that goes back to what Jake said earlier about they feel really confident in all 3 of these quarterbacks. They could win a lot of games this season with any of them. I do think that Gunner is going to give Brock, a push for that playing time. And I think it will be very beneficial for both of those guys to get playing time, because ultimately you're looking at two guys that have appeared in 5 games for Brock, completing 0 of his 3 passing attempts, and no games played for Gunnar Stockton. So I think, when Kirby says that the biggest separator was the experience, it's easy to see why. Carson played, 15 plus snaps in I think it was 4 or 5 games last year, 7 total games. He's appeared in 12 over 3 years. He's been in this system. He's had, very impressive G-Day performances, averaging over 240 in each of those. And obviously that's a, air show, but those guys don't have the experience. Kirby and this staff wants to get them the experience so that if and when their time comes, they'll be ready. Because like we just said, we never know how the quarterback situation is going to play out at Georgia. And there's a chance that Georgia needs either of those quarterbacks to win games this fall.
Do you expect that Gunnar will have similar numbers as Brock, or do you think he might get in a little bit more with the schedule?
I would say both of those guys probably get in 5 to 7 games this year.
That seems fair to me.
I mean, because they've already both redshirted, so you don't have to sit back and hold them to the less than 4 or less. So I think that both those guys will see significant playing time. I think that it's not all too crazy to think that we might see 3 quarterbacks in the first half against UT Martin. I definitely think that we're going to see
3 in the first half. All right.
I think that we're going to see multiple in the first half, and it would not surprise me if all 3 of them
shaking things up tonight. I like it.
I just think that they understand the value in getting those reps and getting those reps with good players. I mean, there's a reason that Gunnar Stockton has gotten reps with the 2s and the 3s. There's a reason that Brock Vandegrift has gotten reps with the 1s and the 2s. They want to bump those guys up and figure out what they've got, with some better players around them, a better offensive line that can protect them, a better, group of receivers that's, better at hauling in the ball, and also going up against a better defense. So I think that you figure out more about those guys when they're playing with better talent around them, as opposed to, your 3rd string offensive line working with your 3rd string quarterback. I do think that we're going to see all 3 of those guys play. And I think that we're going to continue to see a competition and a battle for playing time with those 2 younger guys, Brock Vandegrift and Gunnar Stockton.
It's going to be fun to watch.
If Martin goes the way that I think it will, I would be very interested. I don't know that they'll do this or that it's in their game plan, but I'd be very interested for that second half if you started rotating series for these guys and give them a chance. Just each one, let's see how it kind of clicks along the way. Does it affect rhythm if you take them out? I don't know that will happen, but I'd be interested to see that. And I think that that's a team that you're going to have a chance to do something like that against.
I would prefer that it be 2 and 2, because I think that gets a better, let those guys get their feet wet a little bit and get in a rhythm. Because I mean, thinking back to that UAB game that we talked about, I believe it was 2 series for Stetson, 1 for Carson, and it was 2 touchdowns and then a 3 and out. And then they went right back to Stetson. You never really know what Carson could have done had they, given him another drive to get comfortable. I mean, it's hard when you get thrown in there, especially coming off the bench, to be comfortable right away. And so, maybe that first drive wasn't an accurate representation, and, who knows how a second drive for him would have gone. That's why I think that if you are going to end up with some sort of drive count rotation, I think you got to give all these guys multiple drives to work with talent around them.
One of the things I do think kind of hurts Georgia's ability to get all 3 guys ample amount of playing time is the fact that number 1 doesn't have a lot of snaps under his belt either. And I think that they're probably going to want to try and get him as many as they can before South Carolina and before Auburn. So that one's a little bit tough, man. That one is a little bit tough. And another thing too, if they come out and they have a who was it last year? Samford. Where did they win that game? 33-0 or something like that.
It was a lot lighter than what people thought.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they dominated the game. There was never any concern or any weirdness or anything like that. But they just didn't. They didn't run away with it. They didn't play very, very well in the red zone. So if you come out against UT Martin and you're not able to punch in touchdowns, let's say you score on your first 5 drives and you only score 1 touchdown. That kind of throws a wrench in those plans. But again, it might not be the worst thing ever. That right there might force, Carson Beck to get a full, 3/4 of that game and allow him to grow a little bit. It's just such an odd dynamic when you're playing an inexperienced guy over a couple of other inexperienced guys. But this is the first time. This is the first time under Kirby Smart, once he got past, Jake Fromm, that he didn't really kind of bring in a transfer quarterback and for an inexperienced guy. I mean, they brought in 2 right there, after the 2019 season and with Jamie Newman and JT Daniels. And this time they're just kind of relying on depth, just kind of relying on the guys that are already there and the guys that they've developed. And, you hope all those practice reps that Carson Beck has gotten against a very good defense, serve as enough preparation.
And that's not, I'm not saying they're doing it for this reason, but I do think it's a good byproduct. If you're looking at Ryan Puglisi and Dylan Raiola and you're seeing how Georgia's handling this year, and like you said, you could probably go out and find a transfer quarterback who would come into a team like the defending national champions back to back, right? But, you get 2 of these guys in and you say, hey, look, if you stick with us, if you do what we say and you follow along, I'm not under any, false pretense that Raiola is going to hang around if he's riding the bench into year 3 or anything like that.
I'd put those odds at 0.
Yeah, or 2 even, really.
4.
4. Sorry. It might be tough to get him to hang past 2 realistically, but I think it does speak well to those guys. Like I said, I don't think that that's a reason they're doing it, but I think that Georgia's showing, hey, look, we trust our evals, we got our guys, and we're riding with them, in the time that matters.
Here's what Kirby Smart needs to do. And if he's not watching, I hope someone will pass this along. Carson Beck's never started on the road in an SEC hostile environment. I think you got to ask the Sanford Stadium home fans to just play along and treat it like Carson Beck is a visiting quarterback and just make life hell for him. Pump up the noise. Don't tell the crowd to be quiet. Offense is at work. Make him feel it. Get in his ear hole because there's really been no way to practice that or simulate that. That's just free advice. Galaxy brain idea that no one's really thinking about, but I think it could help your team in the long run.
If they show up like they did against Tennessee last year, we'll be talking about a headline of Georgia loses UT Martin 6-3.
I know. And that will help your team grow. So I'm saying.
Well, I mean, Wes, I don't want that. Like for my job and my sanity and the dog walk message board community, we don't want that.
Could be good for business.
I will fake my own death.
Stranger things have happened. Palmer, thank you for sharing your observations on the quarterback, man.
Get out of here.
We will catch you later on this week, brother. Thank you.
See y'all.
All right. So, Ro, I want to follow up on what you said about Georgia fans respecting Carson Beck and then touch a little bit more on Georgia's offense, which had a night and day performance from its first scrimmage. How should Georgia fans treat Carson Beck?
Man, listen, I've seen so much of, oh, man, you just have to hope that Carson has the it factor like Stetson Bennett. And, oh, you got to just hope, Stetson Bennett was nails in the biggest moments. Listen, I've always been a Stetson Bennett defender. I always have. And I was very consistent in that. Listen, and he still surprised me. Okay, he did. I was the guy that didn't think he'd ever end up in New York for the Heisman. I thought that the game had to go a specific way, but the Stetson could win you a national championship. Folks, Stetson Bennett was not always, clutch gene, it factor, best in the biggest moments. His first couple, 2 or 3 rolls at that were not great. Alabama 2020, Georgia led 24-20 at the half. Stetson threw 2 picks in the second half, and Georgia kind of crumbled. SEC championship game. Now, I'll add the caveat that Georgia tied that game at 24-24, and then Alabama got the ball twice before Georgia got it back again, and they scored touchdowns on both drives. It was 38-24 before Georgia ever got a chance at it. But ultimately, Stetson threw the kind of clincher for Alabama interception to battle for basically to put the game on ice. I say all that to say, listen, you didn't have a whole lot of, patience with Stetson Bennett. And this, this is almost like a church thing. Like if this just only reaches one, it's worth it. Right. If this only reaches one person, have the patience with Carson that you didn't really afford to Stetson. Listen, Todd Monken was painted as a moron for not, for believing in Stetson. And because folks had already made up their mind. Well, guys, Carson's going to throw the ball into the hands of the other team. Stetson did it 21 times, all right, in his whole career. He did it 21 times. So Carson's going to do it a time or two. There's going to be a 3-and-out. I guarantee it. There's going to be a 3-and-out. There's going to be a sack. He's going to get sacked. Breaking news. I see the future right now. He's going to get sacked. But be patient with the guy because he might not have the it factor or the clutch gene, or he might not be at his best in his biggest moments, right away. But he can develop that just like Stetson Bennett did. Stetson wasn't, Stetson wasn't the stone cold fourth quarter biggest moment killer until the fourth quarter of the national championship game against Alabama. From there on out, he was absolute nails, and he deserved every bit of praise that he got. So just be cautious about that. And, I think that was a point that kind of came across to me as we were, kind of communicating with folks, on the message board today.
Tough act to follow,
who does Carson Beck throw his first touchdown to?
I'm going to say Arian Smith. I'm going to say Arian Smith.
Palmer, you can guess too. I see you in here still. I'll say
he's going to throw it to Uncle Glenn Hartley.
Palmer's back.
Jesus Christ. Get out of here, Palmer.
Palmer's haunting the show.
You're back on the stream, Palmer.
He's got a Papal hat on.
Who's your guess? Who's your guess for who the first touchdown goes to?
Well, I just put it in the comments. The other team.
Holy oh wow! Palmer. Oh wow! All right, Palmer's out. Palmer's out again.
Never let him back in.
I'm kicking him out. I'm saying Dominic Lovett, and that will be my segue to how much ass Georgia's offense kicked it this past scrimmage. Jake Rowe, you had a few details on that.
Yeah, we had a pretty good report over there at DawgsHQ. Dominic Lovett had a long touchdown catch. Andrew Paul also had a very long touchdown catch. Carson threw a touchdown pass to Brock Bowers in the red zone. I told somebody asked me, hey, how's the scrimmage going? I was like, man, you may not believe it. Brock Bowers is really good. He caught a one-handed pass apparently over Kamari Lassiter, where Kamari Lassiter, I had like 3 people tell me this, said Kamari was in perfect position. He covered Brock about as good as you could possibly cover him. And he made a one-handed catch. They said, think about that catch he made against South Carolina last year on the fade route. Yep. Except he just made it one-handed. Somebody was in his hip pocket. So, that's going to help a lot of things too. But Georgia's offense looked a lot better. Kirby even said they kind of came out a little bit faster. I heard the number 2 offensive line had a really good day. And I think it's worth pointing out that Austin Blaskey, Dylan Fairchild, Jared Wilson, and Micah Morris. Chad Lindbergh plays right tackle for that group. I wouldn't quite put him in this top 10 yet, but Georgia is confident in 4 of those guys, 4 of the number 2 offensive line to play winning football. I think they would feel really good about any of those guys having to step in and play ball, and that's a very big-time strength of this team. But offense had a good day, more so the first offense than anything else. Not a lot of running the ball, not a lot of Dejon Edwards, not a lot of Ladd McConkey. You will have a depth chart projection for offense and defense early this coming week here at DawgsHQ, but ultimately a solid day for the offense and a bounce back, but especially for Carson Beck, who did throw 1 interception. I think Dan Jackson, Dirty Dan, snagged him in red zone, but other than that, was a very clean day for him.
Clean day for Dirty Dan. I like that.
Clean day for Carson Beck.
Someone told us to zoom in on the one snap on Jake Roos's hat. Can you show us what you got going on?
No, listen, I got a dome. I got a dome like
he's one time in it.
No, I got two. I got
wearing
the
a kid's hat.
I got the two, and brother, no, this is a full size adult's hat, and I need like, it just ain't enough, brother.
Hey man, I'll tell this one real quick. Jonas Jennings at Camp Sunshine one time, he had me crying, talking about how the offensive linemen, when they played for Coach Donnan, would walk up behind him, and instead of holding bunny ears behind his head, they would hold one because he had one snap on that hat. And he said that's how big. And George Foster years later was talking about I think he was talking about the time P. Diddy went after Jim Moore Jr. At practice or whatever, and he said, man, you wouldn't do that to Coach Donnan. He headbutted him and put him in a coma. That man had a head like, I mean, dude, like we used to tell our buddy Noah Roos, that dude's got a head like Easter Island.
Oh man, I have a head. My head is gigantic.
Yeah, my head weighs 11 pounds.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Tell me about Austin Blasky, man. We've heard so much about this guy.
His
What's
head
he
also
made?
probably weighs 11 pounds.
Yeah.
No, Austin, man, he's been battling an illness during preseason practice. He lost a little bit of weight initially, but yesterday in the scrimmage, Ernest Green goes down. Ernest Green's going to be fine, from everything I've been able to tell. But Blasky came in and had a really good scrimmage there at left tackle. He snapped with the ones yesterday with some center snaps there. He snapped with the twos. He played left tackle with the twos. He played left tackle with the ones. I think the only thing he didn't do that's in his tool bag is play right tackle. That's going to be a very valuable piece for Georgia's offensive line this year for sure. And he had a good practice. And, I think that's the guy, man, you want to talk about, you talked about Carson Beck a while ago, Roos, about, kind of, hey, you stick around, you kind of help us out. Austin Blasky is a guy that when you start talking about the offensive linemen who want to sign with Georgia, you can kind of point to number 58 there and you can say, hey, this is what happens if you stick around and you get a tribal tattoo on your right arm. You can do some stuff.
Superdome Roos.
Why did you say that about the tribal tattoo?
Because it's just prominent, dude.
Oh, it is. It's Goldberg-esque almost.
It is. Who's
Randy
next?
Randy Orton, maybe.
Who's next?
You see that tattoo? That's the kind of tat you want on your O lineman.
He looks like he is holding like one of those balls that the cheerleaders throw up into the stands right there.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
His hands are engulfing that ball.
Yeah. He's just mean.
Yeah, you were not thinking about Austin Blasky, though, as a potential starter when he joined the squad.
I tell you what, though, I tell you who did, and I got to give him a lot of props for it, is our man Joe Wyndon over at National Preps. Great friend of mine, great friend of DawgsHQ. You know him, Roos. Rusty knows him. We've all known him for a very long time. Used to coach O-line at Georgia Military. He's the dude. He is such a great evaluator. He does it for a living. I mean, folks don't understand what National Preps is. It is a recruiting service where schools from across the country pay National Preps a flat fee to be like, hey, listen, we want your opinion. We want your reports on all these different guys. Joe covers the state of Georgia. And he told me before Matt Luke took over and eventually went after Austin Blasky, he said, listen, there's this kid down at, I believe, South Effingham. I knew it was Effingham, but county school, Falkville kid. And he said, hey, this cat is the real dude, is committed to NC State, but I think he down the line is going to be a very good offensive lineman. And I do know this. I know Georgia would probably play him at one of 5 positions and feel damn good about it.
You love it.
Great. Great update, man. We've just heard his name a lot and haven't heard a ton about him. On the defensive side of the ball, Smile Munden seemed to have a good update from Kirby Smart and Julian Humphrey making a lot of noise.
Beast, man. I mean, just a guy that – see, he's such a natural cover guy. And I know, man, it is driving me nuts. It's driving me nuts to hear this. Fans like, well, that's what you got to do as a corner. You got to cover people downfield. That's all that matters. No, it's not, man. It's not, because if you – that elite wide receiver that can run right past you can also catch the ball, can also just turn back towards his quarterback and say, hey, throw me the ball. And if he throws you the ball and that guy out there can't attack you downhill and tackle you, then that's worse than not being able to cover you downfield. At least the quarterback may overthrow you. All right. But if all he's got to do is just raise up and throw it to you in the flat and he can just kill you, they'll do that to you all day. And Julian Humphrey has come a long way in doing that. He had a great spring in terms of just being able to turn and burn with guys. But he's come a long way in terms of his physicality. He got a lot of reps with the ones on Saturday. I think, Nyland Green and Dalen Everett all got an opportunity, but Julian Humphrey is the guy that's getting the most opportunity. I really expect kind of each of those three plus Kamari Lassiter to rep with the ones this fall. But Julian Humphrey is the guy that started kind of making a move this spring and has continued it into preseason camp. And, I think that, when you start looking at upside on cornerbacks that have played under Kirby Smart, the first two I think about because they're just so stinking fast are Eric Stokes and Tyson Campbell. Julian Humphrey's right there. I mean, I don't know if he's quite as big as Tyson Campbell, but he might not even be quite as fast as Eric Stokes, but he's right there just in the mix in terms of he's flat out, he can go and he's big, and there is a lot of upside with that kid, and he's only a sophomore.
I mean, he's really fast.
Or maybe a redshirt freshman. I'm sorry.
Redshirt freshman.
Yeah, redshirt freshman. I remember we shared something when he was a recruit. It's crazy how quickly that
Julio
time
Island
goes by. What's that?
Julio Island.
Yeah, his numbers, I believe, were comparable to Arian Smith's, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, and there they are sharing the frame right here.
Yeah, I don't remember what his 100 was, but I know he was a sub 4.4 guy.
Yeah, he's quick. His 100 according to Mile Split, he in 2021 he had a 10.55, which was his PR. But there was a number though that was just like shocking. It may have been his 40 number.
Yeah, it was I believe it's a 4.34 in the 40.
I think so.
I think he got an electronic time 4.34 at like a school camp, maybe in Florida.
Yeah. Yes, yeah. And and he was committed to Florida.
He's a Houston kid, right?
Clear Creek, something Creek. He's from, but he's one of those guys that, again, you talk about guys hanging around Clear Lake High School in Webster, Texas. He was one of those guys that I was a little bit concerned if he didn't. He kind of made it apparent, I think, early on in his recruitment that playing time really mattered a lot to him. And, I was concerned that if he didn't see that early in his career, that he might consider other options. And I figured, schools like Texas would come knocking at the door, Texas A&M as well. Obviously he's got a relationship with the Florida staff. So, I think that guy that you're glad didn't take that route. And I thought going into this year, he was going to have another kind of uphill battle on his hands. I was leaning more toward Dalen Everett or Nyland Green as being that guy, but it really sounds like Julian has come on in a big way and shows why Georgia kind of waged the battle that it did to pull him away from Florida.
So Palmer's blowing us up with some really helpful stats.
Dude, I am watching this video of him running the 200, and
right.
he was running like a man possessed.
So that was the clip I was thinking of. Was this one right here? Okay.
Oh, but watch it. Watch his head. Watch his head, Bob. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, but watch where he starts. It's going to re-rack here in a second. Yeah, he's like, I got it. But watch where he starts.
It's like he's swallowing air there at the end.
Yeah. Boom. There you
go. Yeah. Oh boy.
That was the clip that we shared.
I bet he, dude, I swear to God, I wish I had a mic on him. I hope he's saying I'm coming.
I mean, his head is about to fall off.
Here you go.
He's coming in with the you like that. That's what I mean. He's
coming in with that Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Come here.
All right, no segue from that. GameTime.co, though, is where you want to go for all your tickets at the last minute this football season. When's the last time you bought a ticket? It can be hard. You don't always know where you're going to get them from. You're going to get them from somebody in your neighborhood. You're going to get them from somebody up the street, somebody right outside the stadium. It can be difficult. Well, GameTime.co, if you go over there right now and use the checkout code DAWGS, you can check out what they got. Let's see. Georgia and UT Martin. They had those for, I think, around 150. The website is not working right now. But GameTime.co will work in time for your Georgia football ticketing needs. $20 off when you head over there in time for any Georgia football game this year. Check out with the code DAWGS. That's the partnership we've struck up. And you can find any ticket you need this season for $20 off with the checkout code. Jake Rowe, maybe trying to squeeze in some last minute Braves games before the season starts.
Going Tuesday night.
You can get Braves tickets at gametime.co. You got $163 tickets here for the Skyhawks at the Bulldogs. I was calling them the Nighthawks. Sorry about that, UT Martin fans.
That's the Netgear router, actually.
What's that?
I believe the Netgear router is called a Nighthawk.
Okay.
Also, UNG, North Georgia, the Nighthawks.
I knew that. I did know those. The Dahlonega Nuggets up there. I know all about them. So go to gametime.co and check out the tickets that you want to get this season. It'll be $20 off anytime you use the code DAWGS. That won't be all year. So get on it. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. DAWGS for $20 off your purchase. The terms apply. DAWGS. $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Guys,
is this Michigan guy in the comments Benny? Is that Benny the
Benny
Owenist?
the Rolling Stoner.
Oh, I thought he was calling himself an Owenist. Sorry.
No, the Rolling Stoner with a wrench. He's the Charlie Daniels with the torque wrench.
Sat there talking about that lobster tank.
That's right, man.
Slow gin fizz. Nothing washes down a lobster like a slow gin fizz, boys.
It's the combo of the gods right there. Dylan Raiola in action and somehow escaped a brawl against St. Francis.
Yeah, that didn't look so nice.
That wasn't.
Hey, where was that St. Francis school out of? Is that in Florida?
No, that's Baltimore.
Okay, that's Jamon Dumas Johnson's school.
That is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. For some reason, I thought I saw it somewhere that they were out of Florida. So
no, that is Baltimore's own St. Francis Academy, one of the finest programs in the country, year in and year out when it comes to talent. Just a tremendous program.
Big donation from Marlo Stanfield, I hear.
What?
Sorry, that's a Wire reference.
And then,
then
Buford brings him to town and puts it on him, man. Great weekend of some high school football, dude. Some great games out there. Georgia commits looking fantastic as well. Chauncey Bowen's put together like 195 and like 3 touchdowns, I believe, on the weekend. We got to talk about this Nye Carr catch. I have watched the video probably 40 times now, and I really still don't know what's happening.
I've paused it. I've zoomed in. I've done the Zapruder.
Yeah, as far as I know, it just went into the collar of his shirt.
I don't know how.
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on. There's a motion with the arm, and it moves like this. It's like a chop. And then like somehow during the chop, he catches the ball. I mean, it's like, you remember that commercial where they shot football through the drywall and the guy caught it? Like it was like it was like the NFL commercial. It was something like that, man. It was crazy. So big showing for those guys. Like I said, Raiola with a tremendous performance overall. And, our guy Jeremy Johnson wrote a fantastic piece on his reaction to Dylan's game and said, the thing that really impressed him and that he really took away from that was that Dylan has picked up this offense in like a month and a half. I mean, it's like, it's been so fast for him, but it's been no problem, seemingly. He's been able to take to it like a fish to water. You hear about the touch that the guy has. I mean, the tools you knew, right? How do you come into a program like Buford, though, and sort of acclimate, given the time frame that he had to work with? Doesn't look like that's much of a problem for Dylan Raiola, and that's a pretty scary thought. Also, a great thread on the board over at the Dog Walk with Matt Godwin, former Georgia player, personnel coach, giving his thoughts on it and talking about this kid. Just raving and ranting about this kid, for anybody who will listen. Rel is real deal, man. There's no doubt about it. And like I said, a big weekend for several Georgia commits just overall, and some tremendous high school football out there. Cool to see it back, man. No
Most
doubt.
impressive thing I saw, other than that Nikar catch, which, okay, is this it? No, it's not.
No, this is
yeah, that'd be hard. It's going to be hard to see that quick catch on here. DeMello Jones showing up on some sort of, alien radar. I'm sure he's under the, he's under the on some list on some other galaxy at this point for all the aliens that have radar on the Earth. I mean, I don't know how fast he was actually on that, what his speed was on that, but he was running by guys like they were standing still.
I'll tell you
and this. He is so incredibly fast. It blew me away.
If you go watch the tape on that kid, you see him do that. Bold statement here. I feel like if DeMello Jones played the next game, A, he probably wouldn't be coming to Georgia, but B, he would probably be ranked a lot higher than he is, being hidden down in Swainsboro. And he's a top 100 guy already. But I think you're talking about a top 50 player with that kind of speed and given his coverage ability when you go watch that film, man. He's
flirting he's flirting with disaster moving that fast to Swainsboro. I've moved not much faster than that and gotten tickets in Swainsboro. Several of them.
Yeah, I think I was
back years. Yeah.
I love high school football, man. I'm so glad it's back. The Nikar catch, he's not going to top that this year. There's just no way.
I don't know that that might be the high school football catch of the year. He's got a real shot at that being the case.
Well, if anybody could ever just kind of turn us on to how it actually happened, I mean, I'm still not sure he called it. I mean, there's a lot of questions I have about it.
I think it caught him.
It goes back to one thing I thought about. Listen, I don't know how it happened. I don't know how he did it. But the main thing that came to my mind was the Mickey Mouse hands.
Yeah.
He's got the kid's got catcher's mitts at the end of these sticks, man. Yeah, he is. And you can go back when he committed. I did a piece with his head coach Sean Calhoun down at Colquitt, and he mentioned, he said, Nye's not exactly like the biggest guy on our team or anything like that, but he wears some of the biggest gloves of anybody on the team. I think he wears like 2XL gloves. So the kid's got absolute mitts. Reminds me in that respect, and I think Nye's going to probably end up having a better career than this guy, but Michael Chigbu had some absolute just fly swatters at the end of his
kind of like those big Gronk mitts that he used to wear. Kind of look like oven mitts.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. So cool to see.
Right, I think I've discovered how he caught the ball. If you zoom in right here, you can clearly see. I've gotten a freeze frame here. If you zoom in, you can clearly see.
Is that the ball?
You can't see anything. I still don't understand.
Damn thing.
Yeah. Look at both of us like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I just wanted to make y'all zoom in on the screen. That was like a Madden glitch, what he did. It's crazy.
That's exactly what it seems like. It was like the NCAA 2009. Is what it was.
We don't own that video, so we can't show it. I don't want to get in trouble. Ball. We have a good thing going here, and don't want YouTube to get mad at us. But y'all go check that clip out. Just search for Nikar. It is the first thing you will see. All right, let's check out some dog stock up, stock down. Guys, I'm going to go stock up on Kirby Smart and just his gumption, the gall to go ahead and name the starting quarterback at risk of beating a dead horse here. I didn't expect it. He pulled a fast one on us, and I think it's exactly what Georgia needs. Shake things up, draw a clear line in the sand. See you later, Stetson Bennett. Have fun out in L.A. We're not going to draw this thing out any longer than it has to be. We're going to let you know who the quarterback is, for now anyway, and we're going to roll with that. Bulldog Country, let's ride. He might as well have said that. He might as well have pulled a Danger Russ up there at the podium and just left the room, and I think everyone would have applauded. Even Mark Weiser might have just stood up and clapped. But stock up on Kirby Smart for that. In all seriousness, think it was a good shot in the arm, shake things up, and roll into the season.
Hey, what do you think about Kirby Smart naming the quarterback there?
That's a Mark Weiser reference. Mark used to just kind of come up to me out of nowhere. He'd be like,
Yep.
So what do you think about Julian Rochester punt returner? Huh?
They just
like,
walk away.
It just like George Costanza and like bounced away from me. It was so great. I loved it. I don't see him as much as I used to. It was, the pandemic messed us all up, but I do miss Mark Weiser. Listen, I'm gonna do dog stocks on Dan Jackson. Listen, I think honestly, man, I remember back to the start of the 2021 season. I remember telling a friend of mine, they're like, "Hey, man, this walk on for Georgia is he's not going to play. He's not going to do anything. What are you talking about?" And then Dan Jackson's on the field. Clemson. First game of the season, he's there. He's part of the dime package. He starts a couple games at safety. Next season, not expecting to be an afterthought. Malachi Starks is coming in, right? Maybe he starts a game. He does start a game. Malachi Starks starts 14. Dan Jackson pulls a Stetson Bennett on us, right? He gets better. He picks off his first career pass. Now I think Dan Jackson is probably going to have a role in Georgia's defense this year. I think there's a very good chance that he's on the field in dime. And he's going to be a part of this defense. Incredible walk-on program at Georgia. Like Roos pointed out today on our board, Georgia's walk-on program is pretty incredible. I don't know what Cash Jones is going to do. I suspect with all these injuries, he's probably going to have a bigger role for these first couple games. Terrell Foster, an IMG Academy, standout who came to Georgia.
Formerly of the Atlanta area, I believe, though.
Maybe. I don't really know.
I think he might have been a Westlake kid, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. I didn't know a whole lot about his past. He came to Georgia as a walk-on. He also picked off a pass yesterday. I think he picked off Gunnar Stockton or Brock Vandegrift at one point. You look at Cash Jones, you look at Dan Jackson. Mekhi Muse is another guy that is there, but Dan Jackson was there first. He was the guy that kind of got it started as far as the walk-ons and making an impact. And kudos to him, man, for keeping on fighting. He got hurt last year, suffered a stress fracture in his foot, and was out for the rest of the year. I think that actually hurt Georgia's defense. I mean, I think that his intelligence and kind of his speed there on the defense was very much a big part of what Georgia wanted to do on third down. And then, I think he had an injury early in camp, and he just kind of keeps battling, keeps fighting. He's a really good athlete, really good football player. And, kudos to him. Kudos to all these walk-ons who are trying to find a way onto the field for the most talented team in the country.
Dan Jackson from the chicken capital of the world.
No question. I'm going to first give stock up on having Benny the Rolling Stoner as the new enemy of the Georgia show.
He's a good heel around here.
Really doing some carrying on the Tennessee man legacy over here in the comments.
And I quote Benny the Rolling Stoner: "I'm stoned and on point." LOL. Everything he says, you can't really argue with it because he's owning up to it.
I also appreciate his previous comment to that, which was not I'd apostrophe D, IDE, be mad too, T.O., if I almost lost to Ohio State. But that's fine. Georgia didn't do that, and then they beat the brakes off of TCU, who beat Michigan as well. So incredible to see this new guy here.
This is free. This is a free show. Like
come for the Georgia
for free.
He's commenting, which means he's subscribed. Thanks, Benny.
Come for the Georgia takes. Stay for Benny the Rolling Stoner. He's stoned and on point. No, for real. My stock up is going to be like something we said earlier in the program. Georgia has done a really good job when it comes to convincing us to stay around. And we did it. We talked about it too with the walk-on program, with guys like Austin Blaski, with guys like Dan Jackson. You're seeing an opportunity for guys, man. Georgia sticks to that mantra and they sell it to kids. And I think that they have a really easy time selling it to kids of look, you come in, you do what we ask you to do, you're going to have a chance. If you're the best guy, we'll play you, regardless of where you kind of fall. I think that that's a really compelling sell, and I think Georgia's been able time and time again to prove that that's been the case. I think it's why your walk-on program's as strong as it is. I think it's why guys feel they have an opportunity to compete at a school that's a back-to-back national champion, loaded with 5-star talent, loaded with high 4-star talent. There are guys that are willing to bet on themselves in those 3 and 4-star, those 3 and low 4-star ranks that could go play and be featured at other places. But they like the challenge that Georgia brings to the table. And I think that Georgia presents them a very compelling opportunity. So stock up on Georgia, kind of sticking to that mantra, the best will play. And they've certainly made that clear, I think, over the last couple of years. And it looks like certainly again going into this year.
Kirby Smart said it at SEC Media Days, whether it's about his staff or players that they recruit, they want people who are selfless and love football. That's what Kirby Smart said. So, yeah, you're going to have guys that come in and maybe they get weeded out. They don't play. They go somewhere else. I'm not saying they're not selfless. I'm not saying that they don't love football. But you know that the guys who have stuck around, back to my affinity for Dahlonega, Georgia, you go pan for gold, some precious gems. What comes out of that sand? You got some good gems. You got like a sliver of gold out in like a tube. And Georgia's got a lot more than that right now because everyone that's still here wants to play and they love the team. And you got to love where this team is right now. Y'all hit like and subscribe. Thank you for watching the Georgia Show, Bark After Dark, Monday at 9 p.m. Little preview, guys.
Yeah, we got really excited, actually. We got Jeff Sintel coming in on Monday's show, and that should be a lot of fun, man. Jeff's really good dude. He's a mountain guy too, which I don't think a lot of people know. I didn't know that for years working around.
Never knew that.
He's a lot more polished than I am, which isn't hard. But he's from the rival high school that I went to, a couple years older than me. But a Gilmer County Bobcat, and guy who does a great job, man, and is fun. Had a lot of good times with Jeff, so excited to get him on the show and just kind of catch up with him, man.
I hope he gives like a monologue to start the show, like some sort of haiku or something he's written, prepared, because that guy can turn a phrase.
No question about it, man. I want to ask Jeff Sintel to write the Jeff Sintel story on Bark After Dark. That's what we're gonna do.
I can't wait for that. Y'all tune in for that, and then the Georgia Show will be back 8:30 p.m. live right here on Wednesday. Guys, it's going to be here before you know it. We'll catch you soon.